Thank you very much to have invited me. Let me present myself a little. My name is Japanese, but I'm French. I was born in Paris, and my father was artist, but I'm now the design manager of the RATP, so the Paris Transportation Company. Perhaps I'm doing the job I was dreaming at when I was a child. I didn't know what design was, but one day somebody has told me, "You are doing design." Okay, but I never did design school, but it's so. I've been put in responsibility, perhaps because I'm engineer, and in this company, engineer are not doesn't create fear. But designers and architects, perhaps. So I will present something which is completely coherent to what Tim explained, with other words and other pictures. I don't think it's a continental point of view, but you will think about that. Before my conclusions, and before focusing on interchanges design, I would like to speak about places design, transport environments design, because an interchange is, before being a crossing point, a place, a space, an urban place. And before speaking about that, I will explain a few pictures about the RATP design strategy, how we are completely engaged in a policy turned to feed the spaces concept with good programs. So about this strategy, I want first to say that we don't consider ourselves, sorry, because perhaps you have the documents, and if you follow me, I have jumped the first chapter, which is called Some Major Achievements, because it's not very linked to interchanges. So about our strategy, we don't say that we are a carrier. Perhaps the official brief we have received from the state and from the region is to be a carrier. But in reality, the public doesn't understand us as a carrier. First, okay, we have a mission. We are a transport operator. Metro, buses, trams, RER, so the regional metro. So 9.5 million trips per day. That's a mess. It's a very, very big factory in which we invite our customers to be. Passenger information about that is very, very interesting to do, but very difficult because we are now in a real-time society. Second mission, we are a public spaces manager. We have spaces because you will see it's not an additional function, it's a main function. We are saying for 10 or 15 years that space management is not an obligation we have because we have transportation. It's another job, and we have to be completely strong, powerful, and competent in this domain. And third, we are an urban player, because we participate to the life of the city, because as you see perhaps on the left, there's some artworks. It's a metro entrance, which are really in all the international guides. So people visit Paris and visit some points which belong to us. In the center you have the overground, our overground, which is architecturally very, very high-level building, and the new tramway, which is part of the city. We don't know who inaugurated this tramway, The Paris mayor or the RATP president? No, but both. So we have an extended symbolic mission. We are not only an operator for links from Porte de la Chapelle to Mairie d'Issy. You know these type of schemes very well in London, in all the cities. You have a link from up to down. You have places in the roundels, and in the roundels you have also the links between people. And we are also a social links manager, because people live together in our places, and we must be responsible and competent about that. So if we consider the customer point of view, he has feelings, he has understandings. I will compare the brand RATP to the brand Chanel. Everybody. With the brand RATP, you have perhaps 20% of the image which is built by communication, by our advertisement campaigns like this one, and 80% by customer experience. With Chanel, it's the contrary. 5% with customer experience, 95% with communication. So customer experience is very, very, very important. And where does customer experience takes place? In the our transport environments. We say in French, espace de transport. So espace de transport was a very normal word 20 years ago. But now, when we say espace de transport, people begin to understand that it's something special. They are not so pleasant, you know, long corridors, stairs, vandalism, graffiti, promiscuity. So this is the daily life of our spaces, the place where the service is produced. And in this place, everyone lives in its own bubble. You know that very well, I think. It's very difficult to communicate to people who are in a bubble, but this is our job. So we have written a design objective to touch the person which is in each passenger, which sleeps in each passenger. A passenger, a voyageur, as we say in French, is somebody who voyage, who travels from one point to another. It's a functional definition. But the person, no. It's the body who is having feelings, understandings, emotions, and so on. So we want him to have emotional wake-ups with effects which can be shared. Of course, we are not Euro Disneyland. So we don't say, please laugh. No. If you want, you can appreciate where you are. But if somebody wants to stay in his bubble, let him do so. For example, the trash bin, which is on the right. I was already responsible for the design unit at that time. It was in '92. It was not called design unit, but it was like a team which was beginning design management work. And we have written a brief in which it was written for the designers, for the design competition, please make a trash bin which says to the passenger, give me your paper. It was written so. Because, of course, we wanted to put 11,000 trash bins, so it wasn't expensive to create something original. So the design who has been chosen is a little sensual. Okay, but it will change in the coming years because we have to put now trash bins which can sort our bin, trash, sorry. So, if I summarize our design strategy, I will give you 9 words. And this is the motto. We work with that. We have a book, a guideline, a strategic guideline, which is used in every design work. So, the RATP missions are to be a transport operator, as I was saying, a public space manager, an urban player. So our spaces must be easy, of course, reliable. Reliable spaces, that doesn't mean that they function and so on, but they must also seem reliable. You have many very easy to use systems which in fact don't seem easy, don't seem reliable. Anticipating, that's to say that in all the big cities public transport is asked to give a message about the future, because people need hope in our cities. So, you know, perhaps the Bilbao Fosteritos, the Bilbao entrances, or the Canary Wharf entrance. These very ambitious elements are important to give confidence. As public space manager, we have first to have regulating spaces. I will pronounce the word social control. We have to say that something is forbidden, something is allowed, that there is a danger of death, and so on. That's true. So the space must be must regulate all the crowds and so on. And at the same time, the space must be attentive and rewarding, so that at the end of the day, people who have used an interchange or a place can say, yes, I remember something. It was interesting. RATP has given me something. Okay. As urban player, we have to participate to the sustainability of the city. We have to be federative. That's to say, we have to work with. It's exactly the example of today, I think, with TfL and the borough of people who are working together. We must work. I was this morning with the Paris City people. It was not so pleasant because we were not on the same opinion, but we must propose solutions which can federate all the wills. And of course, we must enhance the city with our spaces. Like you see here, the Guimard entrance. I will say an anecdote about that. Hector Guimard was a designer in 1900. The word designer didn't exist. He was an art architect. And there had been a competition in the 19th century about the new metro entrances, because the Métropolitain was due to open in 1900. And the Paris Metro Company chairman, Mr. Bénard, decided that it was not, all the proposals were not at the level he wanted. So, and I will use a 21st century word, he made the casting of a trendy designer, Hector Guimard, and I go on. He gave him a communication brief, asking him to create some canopies, some entrances, which would express to the public at a time where there was no TV, no radio, no photographs in the newspapers. He was asking Guimard to create some elements which could be able to express modernity and realized utopia. So this was so modern. This was design management. And I think we work in RATP as the inheritance of Mr. Bénard, not from Guimard. So this is very interesting that now the Guimard entrances, which were detested, hated in the 30s, in the 40s. I have found books saying that these old things must be destroyed and so on. Now our historical monuments, they are classified, and they represent Paris in the world, not only the metro. So what about places? Transport environments are very special places. These are places where waiting is normal. You wait, you wait. Walking is compulsory. You walk, you climb stairs. There are many formatted behaviors, very special behaviors, which don't exist in other places than in transport environments. For example, in Paris. Perhaps you were surprised in Paris, because when you have tried to enter in the station with this type of barrier, you have a guy who wants to fraud, who touch you in the back. Oh, I will pass with you. And you admit that. Parisian people admit that. But in every other place, for example, in a bar, in the street, if somebody does that, you slap him. So it's a very special place where very special behaviors are admitted. Strange. There's no book about that, but public transport creates many very formatted behavior. And if you come from provincial regions, people coming from the south of France for the first time in Paris say, what are these persons? They're completely full, walking without saying bonjour to the others. So these are places. Difference between public spaces and transport places are that there are signs everywhere. Oral signs, visual signs, about time, about places. So everything is indicated, well or not, or badly, but they are indicated. So in peak hours you have promiscuity, crowds, emotionless faces, as I was saying. So these transport environments are places where some very special rituals, some very special rules exist. There are also new trends. So this is an old photography from 10 years ago. An old woman who was so it was comic. It was funny 10 years ago. It's completely normal now. But you can't drive when you phone. There is some limit in communication and in acting. I would say with a joke that each individual is in a space and in its e-space. The space is the city, the network, the place, the real place where you go, and the e-space is the word in which you communicate. And each individual is at the crossing of the space, which is shared by many, and its e-space, which is personal. So it's not so easy to manage, because I will show you a photograph taken in 2001 and not in 2006 as it's written. It's in Tokyo. At 11:30, everybody reading in eye mode on the phone. Everybody is plugged. Don't you think that when every individual is plugged, the metabolism of the crowd is changing, that we have the responsibility to manage other type of people? The human being is changing. So we must see that. And in Interchanges, I was saying to the RATP president yesterday, who is making a speech about the same subject tomorrow in the third French Assembly, that he was convinced that indeed when people are all plugged, it's not the same material we have to manage. So, and this takes place in a real-time life, which is more and more and more presses. This is in Shinjuku, in Tokyo. It's one of the biggest stations in the world, but everywhere you have the indication next metro in 2, 1. So, and when you don't see that, It's a rich civilization. So, we say now that the spaces are three things. In French we say service, scène, support, 3S. In English it doesn't work. Spaces, a good space is a good service. A good space is better than a bad space. Okay, I will present good spaces after that. A space is a stage, because in our spaces our personnel works and the passenger walk, so they see themselves in the space. And if a station master must work in a bad station, he's a hero. But it's very difficult. London, Paris, Berlin know that many places are old. And it's also media, because a good space announces a good transport service. So, about service, I will give some examples. The recently inaugurated T3 stations, the Ring Line in Paris, large platform, subtly designed shelter, colorful lighting, and the T3 line is not only a tram line, it's also a piece of city, a place where people want to hang on. You see that in the city, the cars are on the, but the grass is with the tramway. These completely refurbished avenues are really, as I was saying, a sign for tomorrow, a sign of hope. So there is much controversy about that, of course. Delanoë has an opposition about that. But everybody wants, the majority wants to continue, to go on. Another example, in our overground, I use now your word. There is a station called Barbès-Rochechouart in the north of Paris, which is a very special place. People are afraid to go there, some people, because there are many Arabs, Africans and so on. But it's like Marseille, it's a very multicultural place, and we have completely renewed the interchange under the station, and with escalators, elevators, heritage-oriented refurbishment, artworks. It's now a place which is worth a sight, because it's not only a box or a volume, it can be seen. Third example, I would say one of the RATP specialties. We have new cultural places. For the Metro Centenary, we inaugurated 9 cultural stations. One of them, this one dedicated to sustainable development, is working well. You have 3 different projects there, and there it's the program which is now in the station dedicated to the Italo Calvino book, Our Invisible Cities. This is the example showing that a station can have a content, and the time can be filled by an activity, reading something. So every day it's not possible, but sometimes, and it gives a great value to the place. Okay, interchanges. Let's travel in La Défense. It's a big interchange in the west of Paris. We have completely renewed the place. There's a main concourse, as you can see. There are many lines, 15 bus lines, SNCF trains, RER, Metro Express Metro A line, Metro Line 1, tramway, and also private buses and a big shopping mall. 5 years ago, we have put this multimodal real-time information panel. Nobody uses it because people don't need it. But it's like a symbol. It works, and every RATP executive wants to show it, but it's not used. instead of that, many small screens would have been useful. Next time. Multimodal surveillance center, where buses, RER, metro spaces are seen together. Formerly, there was 3 different points. And creating an interchange doesn't mean that everything is at the same place. We have seen that the buses, there was a necessity to share and to create a dedicated space for buses. So there is a special entrance for the bus terminal, which functioned very well. Of course, there is a link underground between buses and the rest. So this is perhaps the only theoretical word I want to say about interchanges. There are 6 basic functions. First, of course, it's a transport environment element. So it's a flows connector for vehicles and especially for pedestrians. Then it's a public space, and the public space is not managed as a transportation tool. If I can be a little poetic, a flow in transportation, the rules are vertical. You define a program, you execute a program, and you compare what is executed to what was programmed. You obey to a program. In public space management, it's horizontal. There are many different people working for a place. They must meet, and they must make a compromise and decide together something. It's not the same culture. So, then an interchange is a place for services, for public services like retail and so on, and also internal services, as Tim was saying, places for workers of the company, for cleaning teams, for example. It's a landmark for the city, of course. It's an object, an architectural object with a shape. And underground places often don't have any shape. And it's an economic unit. So, flows connector, this is an example. A fantastic example. I think it's expensive, but fantastic one. In Madrid, the ring line of the metro has 4 bus intercambiadores, interchanges. A system of underground multimodal hubs. You see the levels. Way out, main lines, zone, commercial zone, interurban buses, metro, commercial zone, car park. And you see that it works very well. It's like I don't know any place except in the US where there is such a big underground place for buses. Osaka. This is not an underground transportation place, but you will see there is a link with the subject. It's a city, so you have the city map, you have 4 kilometers from here to there, and what is in color is completely underground. So you have a double city, okay? And it was so complicated that they invented a map, a simplified map. Number canton map significate number simple map. So you have the zones which are lettered, A, B, C, D, E, and you have all the exits which are written, B6, B7, B5, and so on. And you have this point, like a play, A13, A15, A1, it's written. So I've seen not so many people looking at these signs because people know, but for people who don't know, if you don't have that, you can't walk in that. And you see the scheme. The maps are oriented not north, up, but the direction of vision up. So when you are there, it's the back of this pillar. You see? So you have Japanese graphic designers are sometimes completely silly because they are extremists. But they create some system which could be copied, perhaps. Vauxhall, you know that. Public space. Not as I can't imagine, I can't comment that about a landmark because you know how Londoners have reacted or not. For me it's interesting because it's like an UFO which landed in South London and who has created artificially a space. The interior of Vauxhall Terminal is not the same that the external. So, public space. And landmark function, this chewing gum bus terminal in Hoofddorp in Amsterdam. I've seen it, this place, 2 weeks ago. It's now completely orange because it was completely covered with graffiti and has been repainted. But it's very strange because it's in a blurred landscape, there's nothing. There was nobody. So in services, we say, perhaps London Underground says that, or British rail companies say that, customers, it's like petrol. You put a derrick at a place and you earn money. And people are satisfied with having retail. The Omotesando station has been completely renewed in Tokyo. It was for technical reason there was space, empty space, and all the spaces have been filled with retail with a French image because it is they call that the Tokyo Champs-Élysées, but it's very, very interesting. Last example, as architectural object, you know perhaps this place, it is in Strasbourg. You have the same in Lyon, in Montpellier, in all the tram cities in France, an architectural event to mark the center point. So this is the crossing of the 4 tram lines. And I know a colleague from Strasbourg was saying, before the tram there was nothing. So there's a new centrality which is created by the transport and by the interchange function. The last element I want to say about interchanges, before my conclusion, which is made of 2 slides, is the fact that I think we have to be to see what's happening in the interchanges. Of course, they were made because you had to create connections between buses, metros, trains, and so on. So it was a traffic function, flows connector. Okay, but now it's a place for trade, B2C. Retail and so on. So this is common. But it's also a place for institutional trade, institutional exchanges. I would say B2B. In Japan or in Hong Kong, when you create a station, it's a real estate affair. It's not only transportation. You have, during decades, budget flows between investors, transportation company, city, and so on. So it's because there are people. People are this petrol. So gathering everybody. When you were showing Ebb's fleet with the car parks, a Japanese would be completely, and where will I put my towers? And what I want to say also now, you know what is called Web 2.0. We are making a joke in the RATP. We are saying that perhaps we are bidding Metro 2.0. We know that there are inter-individual exchanges which can be organized, C2C. We have made a study, 60% of our customers make an encounter, manage their meetings in the metro. Let's let's get together on the platform also. 60%. So perhaps there is money to do with that. But I'm not only laughing. When you combine internet and real net, which is our network, in interchanges, I'm sure because transportation operators are responsible for real contacts, real exchanges, we can valorize, we can create a value with the fact that people meet themselves and that it's an exchange place. So my optimistic conclusions are that is that with all these disciplines, city planning and landscaping, architecture, design, public art and cultural actions, we can create better interchanges. It's possible. And the last conclusion I want to say is that we are preparing an outer ring line in Paris. Not in Paris, but in the orbital cities. 40 kilometers metro line for 2030, I think. The work could begin in 2012, and it will last perhaps 20 years. But the way we want the scheme of this line will not be managed only by transportation matters, but also by space matters, where a station, an interchange must be created to enhance the city, to be organized with the city. So this is very interesting. It's the first time that in Paris region you will draw a line, not only because of creating a line, but also where must the point is the point. That was my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.